It's common knowledge that all stories are alive. They live on as long as they are told. Let's gloss over that. I want to talk about a good story. See, I believe there's really only one condition for a good story. It has to be true. I'm striving to walk the path of an honest man. Mostly because I'm obsessed with telling good stories. See, if a story is good, it means the narrator is good. If he's good, then he's tidy. He takes a broom and he prepares his plot. He takes his time with theme, aesthetically sets the emotion in. Then, if you watch closely, you'll see a controlled, often abrupt introduction of certain elements that will make up the scenes he will portray. I like it as a subtle mix of, sometimes not so subtle, mix of real life elements, grazing fowls, an onion pile, holding hands. Then, you know how life comes at you sometimes with just wanton mischief and unexpected tragedy. I like to let the story unravel that, but all in due time. I have a story of my own to tell, and it begins with the birth of a first child. Just the way I like it, simple, ordinary, everyday real life beginning. Funny twist though, this child was born to my parents. No, it's not me. It's my sister, my older sister. Her birth sparked a conversation between my mother and father that birthed the stories I'm going to share with you. Stories of my ancestry. When my sister was born and it was time to pick her names, my father had his choices handy. You see, it was also time to pick a surname for all of his offspring. It was his will that his children should bear his father's name, Iwamadi. But when he brought this suggestion before my mother, she was curious and inquired into the history of this name. You see, it's a name that speaks of reverence to the laws of Amadioha, the ancient Igbo deity. And my mother, a Christian woman, our family being a Christian family, she wanted to know how this name had come to be in our family. In answer to my mother's inquiry, my father would relate to her stories of his ancestors, stories of nine magical realism. These stories would be centered around three crucial names, three of my ancestors, crucial to the continuation of our lineage: Emehara, Ibemere, and Iwamadi. Emehara, My great-great-grandfather. His story is one reminiscent of the tale of Job in the Bible, packed full of tragic and staggering losses. In his case, however, I don't think he saw it as a test from God, just the nature of man, a lesson on what havoc, good old greed, and everyday envy can wreak upon a family. In the time of Emehara, the tradition mandated an annual meeting of the male-born members of a family, everyone that had come of age, to celebrate life, build trust, or just convene about ways to better the community. At these meetings, each daughter of every man present was obligated to present a live chicken to be slaughtered for the feasting. Now, it's known in some parts of Igbo that when a chicken is slaughtered in a family, the gizzard is reserved for the eldest man present or the leader of the kindred. You see, this was how dissatisfaction and animosity sipped poison into the relationship of Emehara and his brothers. Emehara was blessed with wealth and sons, but he had only one daughter. This had begun to rub his kinsmen the wrong way. Just didn't seem fair. His daughter with her single chicken, yet he claimed a lion's share at every feast. Animosity grew, poison spread, and poison only kills. It's a story that might read to few like something of a legend. How Emehara's own kin hatched a plot to rid him of his heritage as punishment for his alleged greed. True means some of them inexplicably wrought with mysticism and evil. Emehara lost 2, 3, 4, and more of his male progeny successively, till he was left with only a single living son. His youngest, a man in the prime of his life, only just returned home with the woman he intended to marry to make the proper introductions, but it was death that welcomed him back through his father's gates with an apathetic smile and spread eagled arms. Emehara went quickly from distraught to downcast to drowning, and he clutched at what was nearest, the only person that had cared for him since the passing of his last son, the woman Umelo, whom his son had brought home with the intention of wedding before he passed. Emehara had turned to her now to do him one last favor. It was a lot he demanded, a son, an heir. That was his plea. She could count on eternal favor in his eyes if she granted him this. Umelo took pity on the old man. She bore him a son. Emehara called him Ibe meaning it is my own kin that have made me this way. A reminder of the cruel hand his own kin had dealt him. Ibemiri, when he came of age, was married to a woman named Ejiatu. The two of them have a story that, depending on how you look at it, you could call unique or similar to the plight of Emehara, his father. The religion they held faith in was of olden times, a time that forbade the birth of twins in Igbo land, and a religion that punished all children born in pairs with death. In this respect, Ejiatu seemed a woman afflicted, for every time she bore a male child, he came attached to another, and they were snatched from her before she could see their eyes open, and her cries were never loud enough. Ibimere, of course, shared his wife's frustrations, one to a point where he would do almost anything to rid them of this recurring grief. He came to her one day with a possible solution. They would go and see the Dibia, the native doctor. They would tell him their problem and have him consult with the spirits or the oracle, and they would listen to what he would tell them. So they went. Their walk to the shrine was spurred only on barely lingering hope. They feared the dubious diagnosis as much as they yearned for the cure. In the end, when they met him, he asked only that they perform a simple ritual. First, he presented them with 2 wooden stools, bound together. Then, he instructed them to take these stools home and hang them up as they were, over the fireplace used to prepare meals in their kitchen, just out of reach of burning. Do this, he told them, and when next Ejatu was with child, she would be delivered of a single, healthy boy. After this child was born, they were to then take these stools down from where they hung and unbind them, discard one into the fire, and present the child with the other to welcome him into their home. It came to pass as the Dibia said it would. Ejatu was conceived of a child, and when the 9-month-long wait was up, a son was born to them unaccompanied. Their gratitude was boundless, and it showed in how Ibe Mary chose to name the boy. Iwa Amadro Amadu, Iwa Amadi. In homage to the deity they assumed deserved exaltation for their good fortune. Iwa Amadi was my grandfather, but I never got the chance to meet him. Some have recalled him to me fondly as a quiet man, a kind man. He had a family of 5 sons, of which my father was the 3rd, and 1 daughter. He died in a chair in his sitting room. It was the afternoon, and he was with his daughter. It pleased my mother to learn, however, that later in his life, he was converted to Christianity and baptized into the Catholic Church as James.